I am good. Ready to go? We have water for you. Anything else?
Yeah, don't worry about that.
You're good?
Unless you want some. Do you want some?
No, I'm good. I just had.
And Rose is going to say a few words too, right? Okay. So you're answer a question. So it's going to be Katie, then me, and then I'll introduce Frank, and then I'll introduce Rose, and then we'll take a few questions. Does that work? Okay.
Everybody ready? All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Carteret Public School District. Thank you to Governor Phil Murphy, Education Commissioner Lamont Repillette, and all of you that took the time to come and visit our district today. My name is Katie Santoro, and I am honored to be standing here representing the Carteret Public School District, and more specifically, the Carteret pre-K teachers. For the past 10 years, I've had the pleasure of teaching the 3- and 4-year-olds in this community. Pre-K is the educational foundation for a child. The pre-K expansion that began last year and grew substantially this year is giving us an amazing opportunity to make a difference for the children in our community. Becoming a full-day program gives us the opportunity to provide children a safe space where they are educated with the most up-to-date curriculum and developmentally appropriate practices, to ensure that they not only have a strong academic foundation, but they have the social and emotional skills to be successful citizens. As teachers, we now have the time, resources, and support personnel to meet each child at their current level and help them progress. We have the means to provide the students with the daily necessities, including access to a healthy breakfast and healthy lunch, and safe after-school care. These things may seem insignificant to some, but they give parents the peace of mind that knowing that their children are cared for every day. Meeting these basic yet imperative needs allow children to feel comfortable and safe, which makes them ready to learn. Governor Murphy, we as a school and as a community are so thankful that you made the commitment to pre-K and funding pre-K. We are witnessing the impact this had in our own district. New Jersey is truly making a difference to our youngest learners. Without further delay, I'd like to introduce Governor Phil Murphy.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Katie, very much for that very kind and generous introduction to you and all educators in this room and beyond. I thank you for everything you do every day. Thrilled to be here this morning at the Columbus School. These are the halls that the commissioner used to roam, which he reminded me of coming up here, which is pretty cool. Great to have you back in Carteret, Lamont. We need you in Trenton, though, so please don't stay too long. I'm joined today by an impressive group of not just educators, and it is a very impressive group, but school leaders, government officials who are dedicated to expanding high-quality pre-K programs statewide. And I'm honored in particular to be joined not only by Katie and Lamont, but by my congressman and a leader in our party nationally and locally in so many arenas, including education, Frank Pallone. Honored to be with you as always, Frank. Superintendent Rosa Diaz, honored to be here with you. Thank you so much for having us. We just did a terrific tour. I want to thank Vanessa Mironoff, the coordinator, for being so ably good at that. Principal Stephen Peters is here, assistant principal, assistant superintendents, educators, everybody here. It's a treat to be with you. This year, by working together with the legislature, we built upon the legislature's prior initiatives to increase pre-K spending by more than $50 million to a total of $83 million, which is the largest funding increase in over a decade. We are challenging a status quo that says we can only educate children from K through 12, which that's a paradigm that Lamont and I think all of us up here completely reject. We know that access to preschool is essential to build a stronger and fairer New Jersey. And with expanded pre-K, we're also making New Jersey a more compelling place to raise a family. This is not just a matter of education. This is, let there be no doubt, a matter of economic development in the state, period, full stop. Children who are a part of a high-quality pre-K program start on a path to higher achievement. Studies show that the benefits of pre-K follow children throughout their education and across their lives. I had the honor to co-chair a national task force on public education about 13 years ago, and we have needs up and down across the educational spectrum. But at the end of the day, if you said you only could have a limited dollar, where would you put it? We concluded then, and we're saying it again today, we'd like to have everything, but let's start here. I think our study showed, and many studies showed, for a dollar invested in a kid in a pre-K environment yields $7 of economic benefit to that kid over the course of their lives. And again, every dollar we invest pays us back many times over. The earliest returns on this investment actually can be seen here today at the Columbus School. We just toured 2 new constructed classrooms for pre-K. Carteret received more than $285,000 from the legislature last year. Today, that amount has been doubled, specific to pre-K. Carteret is joining 30 other districts who are approved for the first round of preschool expansion funding. New Jersey is spending, just to put a number on it, $20.6 million for this first round of preschool education expansion aid funding. We estimate that this will enhance and increase the number of preschool programs for more than 2,000 3- and 4-year-olds across New Jersey. In some cases, improving or expanding means going from part day to full day or providing more services. In other cases, you're going from not having it at all to a reality. Because of this effort, Carteret, as I mentioned, has $285,000 more to add 5 new classrooms across both its district schools and Head Start program, as I mentioned, including classrooms right here at Columbus. Carteret has been able to convert all of its half-day pre-K classes to full-day programming, from 8-something till 2-something every day. This has opened doors to full-day early education, I'm told at least, Madam Superintendent, to 288 4-year-old students, up from 88 last year. That's an increase of 200 kids in this community alone. And Carteret has also increased space for 3-year-old learners, and all preschool classrooms are inclusive, I might add, importantly, for students with disabilities. Keep in mind, this is just in one community, in this great community of Carteret. Similar efforts are underway in other communities across the state, and we hope to see this unfold in every district over the next number of years. Commissioner Repelet and his department are currently accepting applications for round 2 of preschool state expansion funding. That will total up to, I think, just under $27 million. With this round, we aim to impact the lives of educations of more than 2,000 additional students. When I ran for governor, I promised to make decisions that would focus on the next generation of New Jerseyans. In schools just like this one, all across our state, we are making it absolutely clear that New Jersey supports students, parents, and a long-term vision for our state's future. We were recently ranked the #2 public education system in America, #1 in physics instruction, #2 in chemistry instruction, the #1 state in the nation, according to Save the Children, to raise a kid. We aim to keep those lofty rankings, and it begins with programs like this. I want to thank you all for being here today. We have to keep this moving along, as I have been told, unfortunately, that we are not included in snack time. So with that very sobering news, I want to introduce my congressman, one of the really good guys, one of my heroes, Congressman Frank Pallone.
I just want to thank the governor and the commissioner and everybody for what they're doing here in Carteret. As the governor mentioned, I remember when he ran for governor, he made education a priority. And it was particularly that he wanted to expand educational opportunities for, I guess I would call middle-class people who could not necessarily afford things. So a lot of the attention was on preschool, a lot of the attention was on community colleges to make things more affordable. And from what I understand, and the commission, well, first of all, let me say the commissioner, it's sort of unique for me to be here today, Commissioner, because you're from Carteret, and Carteret's the most northern town in my congressional district. But after he was the principal here, he became the superintendent in Asbury Park, which was the most southern town in my congressional district. And then the governor, of course, asked him to become the commissioner statewide. So I kind of wrap everything up by being here today, just so you know. But as the governor said, the reason this is so important is because we know, through all kinds of studies that have been done over the years, that if you get to kids early at this, 3 or 4 year old level, it really makes a difference in terms of their educational ability. And, we've had, you correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is on a state level, we've had preschool in the Abbott districts historically. So like in Asbury Park and Long Branch, they've had preschool all along. But there's districts like Carteret and others that didn't, quite meet that Abbott criteria, but still have a lot of kids that, who the parents can't afford to send them and pay for preschool. So what you're doing, from what I understand, Governor, in this expansion with the legislature, is now going to those the schools that are, above the Abbott criteria, but still have a great need for preschool because the parents otherwise wouldn't be able to send the kids to school. So this expansion is pretty important and part of what I think the governor's trying to achieve in getting to that next level of people that need the preschool, but may not be able to afford it out of pocket. And I know you care so much about education, so that's why this is more important. I feel a little strange being here today because I wish I could say that at the federal level we were doing the same thing, and of course we're not. Right? This is all through the efforts of the governor and Speaker Coughlin and your state legislators. But there was a time when President Obama, and going back maybe 7 or 8 years ago, announced that the goal would be to have preschool in every school in the country, and he did provide some funding for that at the time when the Democrats were in the majority, but that has fallen off. And hopefully at some point we can see the federal government stepping in again and providing money to the states, because I know how scarce those resources are and how difficult it is for the state to do this. But that only goes to show why this is such a priority for the governor, that with scarce resources, they're still making this happen. So thank you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I want to just say 2 quick things before I ask the superintendent to say a few words. Number one, you mentioned the Speaker of the Assembly. We're actually in Craig Coughlin's district. He wanted to be here today, and I should have said that earlier, and sends his best wishes. Secondly, you got it exactly right, Frank. The Abbott, the so-called former Abbott districts, and then there's sort of a concentric circles of school districts that build out from there. Guided in some cases by their readiness. Carteret was ready. It had all the bones, and it had a lot of the initial steps into pre-K that we needed. And secondly, guided by poverty levels. So for instance, that second round, Kerry Booker is with us, and he's been very involved in this in the front office, working with Lamont and his team. The second round of districts who are eligible need to have a certain minimum free or reduced lunch as a measure of poverty. I think it's 20% or more. So we're guided by both readiness as well as by need. And so you've got it exactly right. So it is my honor. This is clearly, when you've got a district system that runs as well as this one, and when you look at how fluidly Carteret has been able to digest this incremental support financially and to expand its pre-K, that begins with the boss. And she's got a great team, but let there be no doubt it begins with the superintendent. Please welcome Rosa Diaz.
I go down.
Yeah. You want to come down? There we go.
Good morning, everyone. Governor Murphy, Commissioner of Education, Dr. Repillette, Congressman, honored guests. Thank you so much for being here today. Welcome to Carteret Public Schools. What an honor. It's a great pleasure to be able to host this visit today, to be able to showcase the wonderful programs and educational program we have here at Carteret Public Schools. Governor, I just want to let you know that your visit here speaks volumes to the commitment you have shown to public school education. And these expansion funding opportunities truly demonstrate your support for early childhood development. So on behalf of educators, parents, students in Carteret and in New Jersey, we truly do thank you. We hoped that as you walked through our classrooms today, you were truly pleased with what you saw and that you had the opportunity to witness your vision for preschool expansion here in action, which is a high-quality program. That's what was promised, and that's what we're giving. And so we hope you're motivated now more than ever to continue your support for this effort. Once again, we thank you for choosing Carteret as your district to visit. I know that we're a very small community, but we're very proud and very mighty. We hope that you enjoyed your brief time here. It's been an honor to be able to host you. You're welcome back anytime to see the great things that we're doing in Carteret Public Schools. And on a personal note, I just want to say, growing up here in Carteret and going through the educational system, I'm sure Commissioner Repollet would attest to this as well. For many, many years, our little town has felt ignored by the state-level leadership. And I can't thank you enough for your focus on districts like ours, where you saw that there was a need and you're truly making a difference and an impact. And you saw it in the little faces in the classroom today. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing for Carteret.
Thank you, Rosa. That was incredibly gracious of you. Thank you. Thank you. And when you were here, the relationship between the two of you was?
Principal, she was my vice principal.
Do you have any good Lamont Repollet stories?
Great ones.
I'm happy to readjust the microphone if you'd like, Rosa. Just saying. Take a couple of questions. Is that all right? Aliana? Anybody? I can't believe that. David?
Governor, you chose Carteret to make this announcement, and as you may know, there's a Category 4 political storm between the mayor of Carteret, Democratic mayor of Carteret, and the local Board of Education. It's been going on for about 5 or 6 years. The mayor's up for re-election this year. Can your decision to be here today be interpreted as you're siding with one side or the other?
No, absolutely not. And it's a good question, and we should make sure that I say that categorically. We call balls and strikes. Carteret went through a very rigorous process to achieve this funding. They deserved it, and I'm thrilled to be here today, but no politics today. I'm just honored to be here, mostly with the little kids downstairs, but also with this august group here. Please.
Governor, yesterday you announced this big deal to get some health care savings.
Yes.
Out of public employees. In your statement, you said you were calling on the legislature to provide relief to firefighters, educators, police officers, and public workers from some of the most harmful effects of Chapter 78.
Yep.
I'm wondering what policies you want stripped out of Chapter 78 and why you're seeking these repeals. Is this part of an agreement with the NGA or AFT?
No, on the latter, no. I think we've been talking about Chapter 78 for, I think, 5 years in my case, kicking the tires as a candidate in transition and in government. So the answer is this is something we've talked about for a long time. Secondly, I'm really proud of what we accomplished yesterday. And I believe it's what you get when you get everybody at the table as opposed to jam things down people's throats. In the latter, you tend not to get good results. You create a lot of animosities and fractures. In the former, when you're at the table, as tough as it might be, and these conversations, believe me, are challenging and tough, you get better results. And for everybody. So it's not, I win, you lose. It's individual members come out better, with reduced premiums and at least the same health care, if not better. You get the state saving meaningful money. I mean, that's the sort of holy grail. And count me in. I think the best, smartest path, particularly with a middle class that's been under assault for the past 8 years, and as Frank knows than anyone, continues to be under assault in Washington. I think the best path in health care is to not suck people's benefits away, but to lower the cost of delivery of health care. And that's what we saw yesterday.
And what are you?
So on Chapter 78, so on Chapter 70, I'll give you one example, Ryan, and that is, the employee saves 20. They get 20% of the full savings, whatever it might be, if you reduce $1 in premium. Can't we find, for example, more creative ways? By the way, in certain situations, that's what it should be. But in other situations, maybe throwing some more chum in the water, maybe incenting folks to have a better savings reality, you might get much more progress in doing a lot more of what we did yesterday. I hope yesterday is far and away not the last step in the direction that we want to go. Dustin. And Brent, while you were talking, I'm going to think of something pithy that I can throw to Brent so I can add to his next column of Murphyisms.
I'll try and make it easy. Can you explain the thinking behind the hiring of Marcellus Jackson as well as details of the legality that went before?
The details of the legal review, I think I won't address, other than we feel completely comfortable with the process that Marcellus went through. I met Marcellus through Reverend Dr. Calvin McKinney in Bergen County. I met him completely in a faith context many years ago. I'm proud to say he worked on our campaign, and he is now working in government. He's a good example of what I hope we see a lot more. In fact, he's working for Lamont, and I think doing a heck of a job. I hope we see a lot more of this, that somebody made a mistake, they admitted it, they repented, they paid their price. We have to get these folks back up on their feet in society, in this state. We have one of the harshest states in the nation in terms of allowing what I just said to happen. Marcellus has done all the above, and I think we should all accept that that should be the new norm going forward.
There's a statement from Holly Shapizi, the Seminole Shapizi today, that says she believes in second chances as well, but when you're talking about somebody who admitted to abusing their elected office, maybe that shouldn't be.
I didn't see the Assemblywoman's statement, and my statement is what I've just said, and I'm sticking to it. Brent?
Last night on Ask the Governor, you were asked if you would remove marijuana testing from state applications. You said you had time to think about it?
Yeah, I haven't had time yet.
Okay.
But fair question. I got home, I had to have dinner at 10 o'clock last night. I watched the end of the Seattle-Chicago football game, went to bed, got up, and came here, so I apologize. It's a fair question. What I did say last night, though, Brent, and it's a fair... We have a lot of, and I'm sure you see this in Washington, there are a lot of rules and regulations that are put in place, regardless of what it might be, for sort of what we now view as the Model T society or the horse and buggy society, whatever it might be. And I don't just mean in the marijuana regime, but across the whole board. And I hope that we can be much more at the edge of our seat and forward-looking in whatever rules and regulations we promulgate in the state. Apologies. Please, 1, 2. I'll have a drink, actually. No, I kicked it over. You want some?
Joint Education Committee hearing yesterday on proposals to change the park test, cutting some
Yep.
of it out, make some reforms. Could you talk about the request to slow walk these proposals, essentially, to conduct more investigation, get more data before there's a vote?
I may ask Lamont to address that because he's been right on it, but I'll give you my views on park haven't changed since the first day we met. I'm not a high-stakes test guy. I got a sister who's a public school educator. I know this. I got 4 kids who go through school. I want our kids to be assessed. Let there be no doubt about it. And we have to assess teachers. Let there be no doubt about it. But the white-knuckle, high-stakes test leaves me cold. And there's no evidence. There's no evidence that I can find, or more importantly, educational professionals, and that's the group that we need to listen to here, would suggest that it is in fact otherwise. Do you want to talk for a second about the process?
Sure. The current regulation has unintended consequences. So we have a moral imperative to address those consequences now. So as a result of the conversation, you understand park, there's pro and there's anti against. We wanted to continue that conversation. I wanted to give the board an opportunity to hear both from experts, policymakers, and from the Department of Education to continue that conversation. We will eventually get to the point where we have a vote on those changes because it's very important that we address these issues. Those issues are, some of the concerns with special education, some of the concerns with English language learners. That's one. The option for high school, the alternative pathway options. These things are sunsetting, and we need to make the decision now. So when we talk about the moral imperative, that's what it's all about.
I want to give...
Well, that conversation we're going to continue to have with the state board president.
I'm hiding behind Lamont here.
That conversation we'll continue to have with the state board president right now. We'll continue to have that conversation with the state board president, so we haven't come up with that timeline right now.
I want to say one thing about Lamont and his team. They're really good, and I mean this sincerely, at running 360-degree processes and input. They are really good at that. And I think what you might be seeing, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, I think you just basically said this, we want to make sure we get this right. I may have a strong bias, but we do want to get it right. It's like adult use marijuana. We want to do it. We want to address the social injustices, but again, it's got to be done right. Please.
Yeah, back on preschool, given the state's fiscal condition, are you confident that you can continue to make these kinds of investments to expanding it to ultimately, I think you talked about universal?
Yeah, we want to go to everybody, but we've also said we have to grow within our means. And so we've said this is a multi-year process. We're on a multi-year journey. I'm sorry? I'm not sure, actually. I think it's to be determined. But I think this is one where we absolutely have stated a goal. By the way, free access to community college is another one. They've said the same thing. We want to make sure that we grow within our means. In some areas in the budget, again, I'll repeat one sort of broad statement, we inherited a mess. So we had to put the defibrillators to the state. And in many cases, this was a big-time one-off reset to get ourselves back to back on our feet. NJ Transit would be an example of that. We put another $242 million into this year's budget to make up for a whole lot of years where we were underfunding it. Don't expect to see us doing anything near that going forward, as an example. That's based on need. This will be based on our means. But I'll tell you something, I repeat what I said earlier, $1 to a invested in a 4-year-old kid or a 3-year-old kid yields 7x that over their lifetime. That's an investment that we have very rare opportunities to make. Ryan.
Can I just say one
thing?
Come on.
Let
me just say, what we really need is a change in Washington, right?
Right.
Have a major infrastructure bill that gives money to mass transit, have a major initiative on education that provides funding for community colleges and for preschool. This is what, President Obama always talked about and the Democratic majority. So maybe we can see some changes there that'll help what you're trying.
Well, that would be nice, because right now it's largely headwinds. So I appreciate that. One more, Ryan.
You mentioned recreational marijuana.
Yes.
You've called for a 25%, give or take, tax on that. We reported yesterday that the bill
had 10.
The current bill in the legislature at 10%. What was your reaction?
Yeah, I think it was not. I'm not saying that you didn't get it right. I think the way that was presented was not accurate. We've not hardened a position on taxes on legal. This is a little bit like sports betting. We want to make sure if we're going to do it, we eliminate to the very best of our abilities the black market. We want to get that. It's like sports betting. So you don't want to price yourself out of the market. You want to be at a level where you're making the right kind of money off of it so you can invest in the state that we've talked about, but that you don't have such a big umbrella that you've allowed activity to take place in the non-official market. I'm not ruling anything on it. We typically don't talk about pieces of legislation when they're getting baked, and I'll include this one. We're not ruling anything out. We want to get it right. And again, the biggest reason to do this is the inequity. We have the widest white and non-white gap of persons incarcerated in America. That has to be part of this, and I'm confident that it will be. I think that's it, right? We gotta let everyone get back to school. Thank you all so much again, Madam Superintendent. Thank you so much. Thank you for the gracious introduction to each of the educators, outstanding educators here today, and guests. Thank you very much, Congressman. Thank you. Commissioner. Love it, pal.